Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to today's live reading of War and Sorcery Shadow by Elise Carlson, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Join me. Chapter 1, The Western Voyage, Ruarnon. Sunlight glinted off the silver bust of former advisors on Regent Ruarnon's right, in stark contrast to the gray faces of people gathered around the meeting table before them. Battle-scarred former General Manon eyed Ruarnon with concern. Benevolence. What could the soldiers possibly have learned in the East that would equip them to recover 7,000 men from sorcerers in the West? And can it withstand enormous strain on morale? Companion Noma asked, slumped in her chair beside him, her young face paled after a prolonged, almost fruitless information gathering voyage west. The soldiers who sailed home with me do not wish to assist the recovery expedition, not even to free the king and queen. What I learned in the East would have made me appear to have misplaced my mind had I put it in writing, Ruarnon replied, their shoulders tensed because their advisors questioning their grip on rational thought was still very much an option. Ruarnon braced themselves to utter truths Tarlands had never known, even immediately after the Sorcery War, and made themselves speak before their jangling nerves put them off. I learned that the only thing separating sorcerers from ordinary people is sorcerers' extraordinary ability to overcome their fear and doubt about magic craft. The difference is their determination, motivation, and persistence with it. Over generations, parents have taught children, which has led to younger generations crafting more magic to greater effect. We all doubted any of us could wield magic because those rare times we survived in battle when we ought to have died were passed off as battle rush or divine intervention from the ancestors. But it was magic. That is what we learned in the East, how to craft defensive magic, and we have been practicing it for our entire homeward voyage to prepare us for the Western recovery expedition. Manon's critical gaze sought his granddaughter, companion Linares, across the table, his brows scrunched in confusion. Linares merely sighed at his scrutiny. Manon turned to companion Tor sitting beside her, and his eyes widened. This is an extraordinary claim, said companion Noma. The soldiers who sailed west with me were terrified of the men we saw start the forest fire with sorcery. Those soldiers may be more frightened by the claim that they too can wield magic. On our other side, General Asa surprised Ruarnon, smiling slowly across the table at General Tanakis's nod. He trusted Tanakis's judgment, and he alone seemed to have accepted magic. Have accepted magic was the only possible reason for Ruarnon's change of heart and confidence about how many they could free from Sorcerer King Nartzeer's captivity in the West. Show us benevolence, Asa continued. Manon shook his head. I have lived too long. First, Midland heir of Tarla, and you occupy the Zaldian realm when the cooperation of the Zaldian royal family and governors reestablish relations with the reclusive Uri, and then go racing off to the east to learn magic. You need to recover your father. I cannot spend my final days as advisor, the twilight of my years sprinting to keep up with you. Ruarnon smiled at the mix of exasperation in his gruff tone, the frown of his silver brows, and the spark of adventure in his wise old eyes, much like his son companion Pamaran's eyes, whom Ruarnon had also hoped to rescue in the east. Ruarnon inclined their head. They focused on the air above the table, mentally projecting. A mist-like oval-shaped shield appeared. Manon flinched back, silently staring. General Aza's mouth opened in wonder and his eyes shone with hope. He reached forward carefully until his deft fingers pressed against the shield. Ruarnon sensed the pressure of his touch like a mental push as Aza's knuckles turned white, but Ruarnon easily held the shield in place, the magic within and without them tingling with power. As strong as iron, General Aza declared, his smile broadening. Are the soldiers as strong as you? Ruarnon hesitated. Few are as capable as their benevolence, General Tanakis answered, though my skills, Tor and Linares's are not far behind. And in numbers, for say, storming the cell in which Nars holds our king and queen prisoner, I like our soldiers' chances, even against a few sorcerers. Our soldiers' bronze shields and ordinary weapons in number and force proved effective against magic in the Temblian Empire. Monan's lips twitched. So this is why your youngest companion sat this meeting out, so they didn't see us gaping like fools? Manon shook his head. You are far too wise for your years, Ruarnon. Linaris beamed at her grandfather's praise, but Ruarnon was bemused by their most senior advisor, calling them wise. They had to push the thought away, much like they resisted Az's present pressure on their shield, so they could update advisor Monan, General Azza, and companion Noma. Lila wanted us to meet her sisters, they continued, so Flara could teach us to craft magic shield and Syra could teach us sleep magic. It was just as well they did. When we reached our allies' waters, we were under attack by sorcery wielding Demars. Monan's mouth fell open. Azza shook his head. Those murderous fiends can craft magic. Ancestors preserve us. Ruarnon ignored their racing heart and the tension in the room, longing to be finished with unpleasant surprises. They aren't the only ones. The elite guard's special abilities were always magic. They all wield it as capably as sorcerers. Monan was staring into the distance. And they agreed to help us? Azza asked. The Temblians are sending elite guard to help us free our royal family from Narzeer's sorcerers? Ruarnon nodded. Monan shook his head. So our chances of successfully fleeing your benevolence's family from under Nars and his sorcery-wielding underlings' noses may be as possible as it was becoming impossible. I presume your benevolence intends to proceed with intelligence gathering, raids, and stealth operations in the West to prepare the expedition. Ruarnon released their magical shield and nodded. King Nartzeer's sorcerers are as powerful as the Empire's elite guard. We should engage them only if stealth fails us. But my plans have changed. I will not sit idle while all my friends and the bravest of my soldiers sail west to confront sorcery, free my parents, uncle, aunt, cousin, and 7,000 of my subjects. I may not be as restless and energetic as Pamaran, but while the Western expedition is underway, it will be my highest priority, and having dedicated everything to Tarla and the realm these past 11 months, now I would dedicate everything to recovering my parents, king, queen, family, and subjects. Ruarnon paused, even as his mouth opened in surprise at the reversal of their decision. Companion Noma was staring blankly at them, but she had missed much while she was sailing west. The advisors when I was your great uncle's companion, said Monan, lifetimes ago, would have called me a fool and had my hide if they suspected I would one day let their sole heir to the throne wander off into the west, pursuing their heart's desire and leaving rule of Tarla to someone else, not even to royalty. But they did not witness Kyura standing in what he found to be an impossible situation, his father's legacy of peace on one side, warmongers and mutinying soldiers on the other. They did not see him struggle to take control, betray his father's peace, and fail to protect his subjects from Demars while he waged war with us. They did not see circumstances break him to such a point he felt his only way out was to claim his own life. The Chaldeans would say a leader who admits they cannot do something is weak, that a ruler should do whatever they must, even if they are terrible at it or if it destroys them or others. The Chaldeans are wrong and ultimately self-destructive. Avoiding a situation that puts your feelings and desires at war with yourself that could destroy you is not weak. It allows you to preserve your strength. It is wise. To be clear, you suspect you will rule as effectively in peacetime as my son would have. Ruarnon blinked, then remembered Pamaran had defended Tarlaw City during the siege from on the city walls, and that was how he'd gotten himself captured. Getting that man to sit still and govern during a lengthy peace would probably require weighting his legs down with stone. But Ruarnon remembered how helpless they felt sitting in safety while their friends battled sorcerers in the sewers of Imperial City, while those same friends risked their lives recovering Linaris' father and Ruarnon's parents in the West. Ruarnon would hate the unimportant by contrast day-to-day rule of Tarla at peace. They may even become as reckless as Pamaran. Ruarnon inclined their head to Monan. If you are to stand aside during the expedition, how would you place us? Monan asked. I would take Tora west as advisor and my young companions west. leaving companion Noma as regent in Tarla and advisor Monin as regent in the Zaldean realm. Should I not return, should my parents not return, and my line end, I would have companion Tor as regent if he were alive, and companion Noma adopt Tor's son Drake if he is not. Either way, I would have Drake as heir, and co-regency begin once our deaths are known. Monin nodded slowly. Drake is no wartime leader, but he is clever and sensible and would be good in peace. And with at least his aunt, uncle, and mother to guide him, his chances are good. Better if his father makes it home. But we all know the best option is you dance with chaos himself like you did in the Zaldean realm, then finish what you started here. Mana didn't smile, but there was fierce joy in those gray, wizened eyes. What of us? General Asa asked. It is a long time since a general was abroad for an extended period, said Ruarnon, but I want one of you to accompany me west while the other remains here to advise and support Regents Noma and Monin. General Tnakis and Asa exchanged looks and each bowed their head. I would like to volunteer, said General Tnakis. Ruarnon smiled. General Asa was an excellent leader and manager of soldiers, but General Tankus thought outside the box and had proven against the Damars the value of that. Sheila had also sailed east with Ruarnon and was competent at shield magic and had experience managing soldiers wielding it. Ruarnon, the companions, generals, and Monon all inclined their heads in agreement. You may need to brief me on how Tarla and this council functions under Regent Ruarnon, companion Noma said to Monon. It appears much has changed. It would be my honor, Monon replied. I would have all of this written up and everyone at this table sign it, Ruarnon added. Should anyone go against it, the penalty will be banishment to the Templian Empire. Monon inclined his head. I doubt we will bicker amongst ourselves like the Zaldeans, but measures against it are wise. Ruarnon exhaled with relief. They had doubted Tarlan logic would allow their advisors to accept such a drastic departure from traditions governing Tarlaw since its birth, but apparently they underestimated the council members who hadn't sailed east. Ruarnon summoned Drake to the Golden Meeting Hall while a scribe laid the conditional succession documents on the table beside a stylus and ink. Ruarnon gritted their teeth. This wasn't the first time they had set sail away from Tarlaw, but from this voyage they may not return. Their expedition would be contended with sorcerers. If it went wrong, their attempt to free the Zaldean army could enslave their expendiary soldiers, while their attempt to free their parents could land them in a cell beside their parents. To risk all that, Ruarnon would walk away from duties that had shaped their life so far, placing both their kingdoms in their advisors' hands without knowing whether they or their father would return to take those duties back. It was daunting, yet Ruarnon's 4 Australian companions had faced uncertainty since they stepped from Australia to the Templian Empire over a year ago. Ruarnon smiled at memories of their friends' resilience, stepped toward the greatest deviation from tradition in Tarlan history, took a deep breath, and signed their name to it. With a bow of his head, Tor took the stylus from Ruarnon's head. Monin followed, then companion Noma. The general signed swiftly, Linares following their lead. Then, with a reluctant bow showing acceptance of the future that awaited him if the worst should happen, Tor's adopted son Drake signed. Ruarnon exhaled deeply. After 11 months of fulfilling other duties, it was time to pursue the desires of their heart.